I wanted to talk about extremes and people who care about things so much that they take it further than other people do. Perhaps we all have our extremes because we all care about different things, and so if I do something as a hobby, then I am taking it to a bigger extent than you are because your hobbies are different to mine. One might wonder what leads some people to go to the extreme on some things, like if there is some sort of event that caused them to want to take it further, or if just gradually over time that's who they became and that's just what they wanted to do. Recently on TV I heard about this couple who named their child Storm, who wanted to raise it genderless. I know a lot of people are going to argue about the difference between sex and gender and blah, but the father is quoted as saying, if you want to get to know someone, it shouldn't be about what's between their legs. So that's what it's about, really. You know, that's what he's quoted as saying, so that's what it's about. I think that it's okay to raise a child saying they can play with any toys they want or wear a dress if they want, that sort of thing. But to just not teach them about the parts they have and things like that is a bit limiting, because things like changing rooms and puberty and all that sort of thing, you can't just not teach them that they are what they are. Because also what was brought up on TV about it was when you discuss the child, you can't say he or she because no one knows what Storm is. Someone mentioned on the right stuff that it almost makes it dehumanised because you could end up referring to the baby as it. But anyway, they've decided that they care about gender issues enough that they want to raise their child genderless and sent an email to all their friends saying they're not going to tell them the sex of their child. I also saw a TV show on 4OD called Health Food Junkies about people who only raw food, which is mainly vegetables that aren't cooked. They don't cook anything because then they think that they would cook out most of the nutrients and stuff, so they eat all their food raw. And one of the families in the show, I think, had 3 children who had never had a cooked meal and were homeschooled. I'd also like to point out that living off takeaways is probably an extreme too. I've also seen a number of TV shows recently about saving money and things like that. And interestingly enough, I saw a show recently whereby there was a couple and they have a child together, but they live in separate houses because the father is so saving money that he couldn't bear living in the same house as someone who would spend money on things that he considered needless. And I thought that was odd, because surely it costs more money to have 2 houses than to live together but buy things that are needless. And it wasn't necessarily that the things that she bought were needless, but that he considered that her having pillows on the sofa and things were needless, whereas he would save all his old egg cartons and sell them to farmers because he wanted to save loads of money. I remember seeing a show once whereby families tried to pay off their mortgage in a year. I remember one family lived in the bottom of their garden in some sort of made proper area shed thing. It was a bit better than a shed, obviously, but they rented out their house and ate dog food and things like that so that they could save a lot of money, hopefully putting it towards their mortgage and then pay it off faster. And there was also a story a while back about someone who was trying to live off £1 a day so they could save up for something. I'm not sure at what point these extremes take over a person's life to the extent that they have to be apart from some other people in order to do them, live separately or be homeschooled, things like that. And whether or not it is worth it to do these things, although I suppose that to them it is worth it because they are doing it. I suppose my first question is, do you consider yourself to be extreme about something? And my second question is, could you be extreme about something like these things? So, would you go the extra mile for something politically or religiously you thought about? You know, would you change your child's life for it? Would you eat dog food and live off a small amount of money at a time to pay something off or save up for something? Could you do these things long term, or would you only be able to do them if you knew there was an end point? Would you be willing to give up people in friendships who disagreed with your way of life? And were they friendships if they can't support you with your way of life?